A very warm good evening to all Johnites out there. This is the Johnite Tales making a comeback in the month of December. And we've got a very special guest, and this is what you could call the second part of season one, so to speak. Before we move any further, I would now like to invite the president of the Alumni Association, Dr. Anthony Robert, to say a few words and also of a very special program happening day after. Dr. Robert?
Good evening, Johnites. Good evening, Johnites all over who are watching this. And thank you, Nitin, for being the energy between getting this thing going. We've had a long gap, and we hope that we'll catch up with our list. It's an absolute pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Meenakshi Ramu Bharath for today's show. Uh, for those of you who know her, you know that she's a big bundle of energy. Sorry, I'm in Bangalore traffic, so the signal might be a bit off. Yes, a big bundle of energy, a senior of mine, but I did have the privilege of working with her on a previous alumni committee where she and Dominic Visquit together did some magic. She'll tell you about that. And I also know her for her energy in serving the public and entering politics, one of the few Johnites to have made
I think we lost Dr. Robert there in the connection, but it's our absolute. Apologies for the technical difficulties there. Right, it's my privilege to invite our guest for today, Dr. Meenakshi Bharath, who has been a very influential figure in more ways than one. She's well-known gynecologist, fertility specialist. She's also had a very interesting stint or encounter with politics and elections in Karnataka, and we are just off the back of election results in the country in many states. And more importantly, she's passionately championing the cause of environmental sustainability. Thank you, Dr. Meenakshi, for taking time off. We leave the stage open to you to tell about those initial days in John's and what made you choose medicine as.
Thank you, Nitin, and thank you, Robert Anthony, for giving me this opportunity. I always wanted to be a doctor from the age of 6. And when my dad gifted me with a little doctor's kit, I was thrilled to bits. And so my aim through school was to study enough to get myself a seat in medicine. I actually having studied in Bangalore for over 5 years, I wanted to go out of Bangalore. But guess what? I got 2 seats in Bangalore and none anywhere else. One was BMC and one was St. John's. And I chose St. John's despite the fact that it was far more expensive than BMC. And for this, I need to thank my mother and my father, who in the 5 years, spared 25,000 rupees, and that was 1/4 of his pay over those 5 years. And I truly have to thank my mother and dad for making that sacrifice so that I could study in St. John's. Enjoyed every bit of it. It was a great place to be in and a great place to study in because there were such good teachers, whether it was the Dr. Manorama Thomas, or whether it was Dr. Sylvia Kamath, or whether it was Prakash Shetty in the initial 1.5 years. Biochemistry, of course, was something that bounced off my head, but we had to learn about it. It was wonderful, and the seniors really helped us get into the groove in St. John's, and that has been, I think, a hallmark of a Johnite, that the seniors handhold you through your initial difficulties. Yes, Nitin,
We'll
you're
just
muted.
touch upon, yeah, we'll just touch upon those initial years and really taking into context. Did you think that there were any difficulties being a lady doctor or pursuing higher education, being a lady in terms of post graduation? In the 1970s, as let's say compared to now, were there any stigmas associated that a lady doctor should do only so and so post graduation specialty?
Well, I don't think there was any such thing. There was no restriction because we were girls, and we were nine girls and nine nuns. And I think we enjoyed studying with all the 42 boys. And there was no discrimination as far as I was concerned. My father was only worried that I would not get married because his sister didn't get married when she became a doctor. That was when I got married immediately after finishing MBBS. That was laid to rest. And so there was no stigma. And my parents in law were very pro my doing post graduation. So I think as girls, we didn't have any difficulties.
You spoke about faculties such as Dr. Manorama Thomas and all being inspiring. If I was to take you a little further and ask you any memorable incident during clinics in undergraduate days during those time, what would it be?
So we were doing our final exams for OB-GYN, and Dr. Krishna Kumari was the internal examiner, and she was asking me to talk about something, and she kept saying, have you gone to Commercial Street recently? Have you bought yourself something? Have you, so I kept saying, no, I've been studying for exams and I didn't go to Commercial Street at all. And really, what she wanted to do was to talk of me to talk about the lips of the cervix. And that, tube light that I was, I just didn't get it. But they were all brilliant teachers and taught so well. And I think we all enjoyed their classes extremely. Some of them were stricter than usual, but we loved them because they were strict.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask, who do you think was the strictest teacher you came across?
Oh my God. Um, I think I can't think of anybody else, but I suppose each one was strict in their own way. Who
You
can
don't
I
have to
think?
answer any more vivas, ma'am. So you can afford to be not diplomatic and tell who was the strictest teacher.
Hmm. I think Krishna Kumari was the strictest teacher, and because she was the strictest teacher, that's why I chose to become a gynecologist. And she, of course, was my gynecologist when I delivered my first baby.
Oh,
But
okay.
and the other thing that I did of significance was in my final MBBS. I took up the mess chairmanship along with Dr. Nandini Millati, 2 years my junior. And it was something that people didn't think a two women would do. But we did. We learned a lot. We went to Russell Market often. We cleaned up the kitchen. We bought new plates. And of course, we chased everybody to pay up their dues. There was ever so many people who didn't pay up their dues. And I think lots of Johnites, senior Johnites, remember that I chased them till they paid their mess bills.
Oh, okay. So, speaking about mess and sort of the co-ed environment which existed back in those days, what would you reflect on any humorous incident which took place in the mess, or as something which, when you look back now after 40 years, you wish, oh gosh, I would like to go back to the mess and recreate those memories again?
The um, the one place in the mess that we liked very much to be in was the rec room, because there was lots of good music and lots of nice dancing that happened there. And coming in from a very conservative South Indian background, meeting all the boys and learning how to dance was, of course, one of my favorite things. But it was very, very enjoyable. And the fact that we sat together and had meals, and I remember two eggs, four toasts, plus two dosas. I didn't put on any weight. Now I have to breathe about it and then put on some weight. So the food was sometimes monotonous, but uh, very, very healthy and sumptuous.
I think you bring about a very important point, and that is not necessarily a clash of cultures, but really learning and enhancing a cultural experience when you start off your education in John's, be it exposure to music or dance forms, or just getting to learn a new language and different food habits as such. You briefly mentioned that Dr. Krishna Kumari was one of the reasons that you sort of decided to take up OBG. Um, but when did you really crystallize in your mind that this is the field I want to do? Were there any experiences during internship in OBG that made your mind, or was there an influence that during those days women tended to pick more of OBG? What made you pick up OBG as a field of post graduation?
Okay, I go back one step. We came back from the first holiday, um, after the first semester, and I came and somebody asked me, Meenakshi, how was your holiday? I said I had a gay time. And the Time magazine had just then come out about gay people. And I got ribbed so badly for making that statement. Me being a conservative Tamilian, didn't know about it, and so then my seniors came in and enlightened me, and I thought that was a very funny situation for me to be in, answering that question that way. All right, so let me go back to what you were talking about. What influenced me to take up gynecology? Through my internship, I had three choices. One was psychiatry, one was gynecology, and one was pediatrics. When I did my internship in pediatrics, those kids used to bawl their head out, and I couldn't hear the breath sounds between their screaming. So I said, pediatrics is not my cup of tea. I then got married and I was going to the Middle East. And so there were two choices left, gynecology or psychiatry. And I didn't think psychiatry had much of an opportunity in Muscat and then Dubai. So I therefore took up OBG.
Okay, so what was that first experience of a delivery? Were there any jitters? Were there any nerves? Do you recollect the first delivery that you ever did?
Not really. I had a very good friend in Dr. Philomena Vaz, who was my senior, who was the junior registrar then in Martha's, and she really handheld me, so that there were no jitters during my first delivery. And
All right, I think
easy for
there
me.
was sorry, we had a technical glitch and we lost you for a second there. So you were talking about your experience in Martha, how the senior really um, you and handheld you through the delivery process. But how was your post graduation in Davangere? And again, just to sort of bring about a contrast of being an undergraduate in Johns and then going to another place to do post graduation. What was that one thing which you would say would be the difference between St. John's and other colleges, either the positives and the negatives, both, of course, when you're pursuing post graduation?
I took whatever came my way, wholeheartedly, and didn't worry about it. What was funny about my stint there in Davangere in the CGH hospital was that it was a government hospital and it wasn't very clean. So I would chase all the women cleaners to, clean the bathrooms and everything. We made nice charts about the various aspects of labor. I can't remember it now, but or, for quite a few years, those charts were still at that hospital, old hospital in Davangere. And in Davangere, I found Dr. A. Rajshekar, the most wonderful of teachers who really taught. We were scared of him, but he taught us gynecology so very nicely. So after Krishna Kumari, Dr. A. Rajshekar was somebody who kept us on our toes but taught us very well.
So I'm going to move away a little bit from the OBG aspect, to something which is very much in the news now, and that is elections and politics. Um, you had a very interesting brief encounter with state politics. You did contest for the MLA seat too. So, how did this ambition or this sort of perspective come about to fight elections? Because there would be many doctors who would be wanting to step into public service, but they may be taking a backseat saying, oh, elections, I have to contest the elections, elections are not for me. So, over the next few questions, I really would like to sort of get that information out. So, to start off with, where did that ambition or with what perspective did you want to enter politics and stand for elections?
So it's all started in 2007 with my daughter getting dengue, and she was in hospital for 7 days and needed three platelet transfusions. And when I came back home with her healthy, I realized that dengue, the virus, and the mosquitoes breed in coconut, clean water in coconut shells that lie around on the roads. So I decided to work on garbage. And when I was started working on garbage, we found a whole group of citizens who were keen to work on garbage but were working in silos. So we all got together and formed what is called as the Solid Waste Management Roundtable Bengaluru. This group of people, and mainly women and a few men, we went to see the Mavalipura landfill, and it shocked us completely that that was where our garbage was going. So we quickly learned from stalwarts to manage our garbage, not create garbage. And then that was around 2009, 2010. And then we realized that we were going and requesting the politicians to give us the opportunity to manage the garbage that is being produced in their ward. And not too forthcoming it was. At which time, Mr. Ramakant and I said, let's stand for elections. Let's stand for corporator elections and let's see how we can make a difference if we are pro garbage management. And there are ever so many things that we can do better than what is currently being done. So that was
So
the ambition.
I'm just going to interrupt you here. That it's a very, very sort of a noble and a thought to give, that if you find a problem, you sort of need to step into the field and try to bring about a change rather than just criticizing about it. But did you form any political party? And if so, what were the steps that entailed into forming a political party?
No, I joined a political party called Lok Satta with Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, who was an IAS officer. and he was truly inspiring. He was then an MLA in Andhra Pradesh, and it was his party that I joined, because all other parties don't give an outsider a chance to come in, but he did, and that was amazing about him. And he inspired us to stand both for the corporator elections in 2010 and then the MLA elections in 2013. It was like, taking on David and Goliath. I was the little David there trying to, knock out Goliath, but it was a learning process, and I learned, and with my friends, all who stood by me, my parents who stood by me, my mother who turned around and said, "I will take care of the house. You do what I could not do. You do public service, I couldn't do." My husband was very supportive, because he had to cough up the money for my elections. What small amount that we spent, small amount in terms of what, big for us but small for elections. So we spent about 20 lakhs on it, and it was, I think it was a threat that I provided to the current politicians. And initially, I started in 2008, I started by supporting them. But by 2010, I was not supporting them. I was opposing them, because they were not thinking of public good, is what I thought. So that was the way it went. And both times.
Most of us have been involved in some form of student elections or the other, especially in John's for the student committee, the late night campaigning, the SMS messages, meeting in mess, trying to convince people to vote for a certain person or whatever. Um, at any point of time, if did you feel apprehensive that, hey, I have my reputation here as a doctor, and I'm here doing something which is completely different from what I've done all my life or what I've been trained to do, so forth. So when you started the election campaigning, what were your emotions and how did you strategize and plan out the campaign?
Actually, I just jumped into the arena, and
Okay.
then my friends and my kids came around and put in the strategy of it. And then um, it it was really amazing how much of walking I must have done with my friends, climbing up to the third floor of the house. I lost 5 kgs during those 6 months of elections, became slim and trim. And the thing was that everybody wanted to know, why are you standing, and two, will you remain honest after getting elected? And I really wanted to ask them, does anyone have the guts to ask the current politicians, are you honest? Will you continue to be honest? So these are sort of dichotomies that come in to play, but it was a learning curve. And I think I fulfilled my wish to do public service by standing for elections. Though I didn't win, I had a fair amount of support during the corporator elections. Out of the 5,000 votes that the winning candidate got, I got 800 votes. And the nice part of it is that the opposition for me was somebody who was also a doctor, who was also an MD. So the
Okay.
quality, or the standard of the person standing for elections went up.
And that is also bringing about a change because ultimately you are doing something to bring about a change in the system and raise
Correct.
the discourse level rather and focus on the public good and the issues surrounding the public. And of course the garbage issue, the pothole issues still continue to dominate Bangalore city elections. So we go back
Correct.
a little bit in time now. while you may have been unsuccessful in losing out in the state elections, the corporator elections, you were a very integral part of the St. John's Alumni Association committee. And even now, despite the WhatsApp, Instagram, emails, Prithvi, as the communication secretary, does find it hard to send out messages to effectively to ensure it reaches everyone, because the post of communication secretary is a hard post, and in some ways is also the backbone of what the alumni association does in trying to get its message across. But you did achieve a very remarkable thing along with Dr. Dominic way back, I think in the mid 90s, early 2000s. If you can talk a little bit about it.
That was 2003. We together decided that we needed an directory of the alumni, because when we 2000 I came back to Bangalore and joined the alumni association, and when I joined the alumni association, there was nothing which said who is where. So then he said, let us do for the first 24 years. No, first 34 years. Let's do this. And it was, I can't, I can't imagine how I got so many names. 60 into 34 years. I can't imagine how we did, Dominic and I. But we did go and collect everybody's details, starting from their date of birth to their date of marriage, to the spouse's name, to the children's name, to their birthdays. It was a mammoth task at a point where there was no, the email had just started, and there was no WhatsApp, there was no SMSs. All those communications were missing. So emails were the only way. And some of them refused to tell me what their birthday was, but it was available with the college, because we all gave in our date of birth when we joined St. John's. But it was labor of love, and I thought Dominic and I did a great job of it.
Indeed, fantastic. And just for a pun's sake, I would say the labor of love did indeed deliver with a wonderful alumni directory, which was the need of the hour that time. And again, in today's era of social media, it is possibly a little bit more easier to communicate or to find out the whereabouts. But in a time when someone had to go to, let's say, Malaysia, Australia, or any other country, or even in India to another state to just reconnect with a Johnite living, I've heard a lot of stories of how this blue book has helped them out. I think in John's there have been two iconic blue books. One is from the pathology department, the blue book of the pathology department, and then of course the alumni association blue directory as such. Um,
I
we
was
come now.
delighted that many Johnites use this book to connect with others. Of course, the senior Johnites, the Johnites from the 63 batches to the 73 batch, they really helped out whoever came um, to went abroad. But this book helped to find them where they were, and so many of them said it made a difference to them.
Absolutely. And speaking about making a difference, we reach what is a very close issue to your heart, and that is environmental sustainability. And again, with current affairs, with the COP meeting happening between political leaders as such, I do believe that all of us have a responsibility to climate change and environmental sustainability. You have
Correct.
been at the forefront of merging two issues together, and that is women's menstrual health and environmental sustainability. Can you
Correct.
talk us a little bit about that?
So when mm, um, we learn to segregate waste, we learn to compost waste, we learn to reduce the amount of dry waste that we are producing by using reusables. So both my children's weddings were zero waste weddings, and nothing, and other than the perishables, that means the food that we food waste that was there, except for that, the vegetable waste and whatever, we didn't produce any waste. And the chowdhury people were very amused that they didn't send a ton of waste out after our weddings. So when that happened, we were left with sanitary waste or the red bin. The blue bin, the green bin, and the red bin. The red bin was what contained sanitary waste. And just at that point, somebody turned around and told me that menstrual cups have come up. And menstrual cups have been there for a long time, but they are now available in India. And this is the cup that my friend came and Claire came and showed me, and I was absolutely taken up by it. Unfortunately for me, by the time it was 2015, I had already attained menopause. But I tried it for one day and I said, if I don't try it, then I don't know the pros and cons of using it. So I used it for one day and found it absolutely amazing. That then decided that my love for gynecology and my love for garbage prevention should come together as menstrual hygiene. And since 2014, I have been, advocating this. Unfortunately, what happens is that not too many people know about it because there's no advertising power. The disposable pads, you have to keep buying them. So in a year, 180 pads a woman would use. This cup is one cup which is made of medical grade silicone, and all of us understand medical grade silicone. And this can be used for 10 years. So it replaces 1,800 pads. One cup replaces it. So, can everybody use the cup? Yes, you can. But ideally, you need to be an adult. So, 18 plus years, you can use the cup, and there's no problem about it. Vagina is unsterile. And as doctors, we all know that we don't use sterile gloves to examine, do a PV. So if we don't use sterile gloves, then this needs to be just washed with plain water. So very convenient, easy to use, easy to carry, nothing to worry about, doesn't create any infection, and it's a boon for women. You forget that you're having your periods. So that's my mission now, to spread the message to everybody to use a menstrual cup. And when I came to St. John's to talk about the environment, and Dr. Manjulika was kind enough to invite me as faculty for that session, I spoke about the menstrual cup to the girls. And I think the batch of 2020 took it up seriously, and all of them are using it and they are delighted with it. I wish, of course, that I had this opportunity to use it when I was younger, but that have taken it up and find that their bathrooms are not stinking, their dustbins are not overflowing, and they are saving money and also health. So, Nitin, for somebody like you who works in
How
cancer,
difficult
the disposable sanitary,
yeah,
how
how
difficult
difficult
is?
it was to start, how difficult it was to start off this concept. We know that it's been around for the last few years, but when you started off trying to merge um, the concept of environmental sustainability and women's menstrual health, did you find a lot of opposition from women themselves? And what were the barriers that you faced in trying to spread this message?
So, first of all, the barrier was in us itself, because we had to learn to talk freely about periods. So, it wasn't something that was done then, but now, we all talk about it without any hesitation. We have stopped those taboos that were there for menstruation. We've completely overcome that feeling of discomfort or fear. We talk about it very comfortably. And initially, every lecture that we give, the beginning of the lecture, people are looking down and saying, I don't know what this woman is talking about. Why is she talking like this? And then By the end of the lecture, they're all their heads up, they're listening to us, and they're imbibing what we are saying and understanding that we are saying it not just for the fun of saying it, but because it will make them have comfortable periods.
And
So
and did you find how popular is it among obstetrician and gynecologists itself in the initial stage? And were there any barriers that you faced within the field itself when you were trying to propagate this concept?
this is something that the obstetricians didn't know about it, because there's nobody who comes to tell you. Unlike a new drug that comes into the market, the pharmacist will come, the company man will come and talk to you about this new drug and give you all the advantages and disadvantages. There's nobody who talks about the menstrual cup. So we had to introduce it to the doctors, talk in the Bangalore Obstetric and Gynecological Society, and introduce them to it and say use it. So once they use it, they are fully converted. But till they use it, that fear of inserting the cup into the vagina is something that is amazing. Why must you fear it? Once you got married and you've had intercourse, then there is no fear of inserting something into the vagina. Or if you are somebody who has lived abroad and used a tampon, then there is no fear again of inserting something into the vagina. So once you get away from the fear, then this menstrual cup is the best friend of every woman. So I think we gynecologists are now coming around to talking about it. Lots of Zoom calls during the pandemic to explain to women. Doctors, gynecologists, the Foxy has also taken it up in a small way, not in a big way. I'm hoping that they will do it in a big way.
Right. Dr. Praveen has just sent in a comment thanking you for all your service to the Alumni Association, and Dr. Vidya Kalarajan also sends in her regards as such. So it's been a very fascinating conversation with you over the last 40 minutes. So now we are going to have a little bit of fun and put you on the spot. I'm not going to be as strict as some of the Viva teachers, otherwise you would label me as the strict Viva master. So very, very quick, some fun rapid fire questions. The one subject that you found boring during UG days.
Biochemistry.
All right, fantastic. The one subject you loved the most apart from OBG.
I think anatomy. It was fascinating, but I didn't learn it very nicely as we panned out into the other topics, surgery, and then realized, then I figured out that if I had studied my anatomy better, then I would have known these subjects that much better.
All right. The weirdest reason or any memorable reason that you bunked a class for?
I think I really was a serious student. I didn't bunk too many classes.
Right. A
But
typical nerd, if you would call you these days.
initially, I think. After that, I started becoming truant. But we enjoyed those all the cultural festivities. And I remember my classmate KGB was a test tube baby. 1978 was first when the first test tube baby was born. And so we put him, inside a transparent uh, test tube like structure that we built, and he was the test tube baby. And then
Oh,
the next thing that I found too funny was that that song was there. I married a female wrestler, and look at the mess I'm in. Yo, yo, yo. And I was the female wrestler. And KGS Raju was my partner. So it was too funny when we met at the 45th anniversary. I forgot to, remind them that this is what we did during our so many talent contests.
We would have had an encore during the Diamond Jubilee if you had told us about being a wrestler, and you have wrestled your way with success to push environmental conservation. Your favorite food in the mess?
I still think Ceylon parathas that they used to make, full of oil, but we loved it. I loved it.
All, all right. And the dish that you prepare the best?
I'm a horrible cook.
All right. Okay. We should possibly ask your family members to rate the food. Then possibly we would get more information from that.
No, I don't cook. My daughter cooks excellently, and I employ a very good cook.
All right.
So
Okay.
I believe I don't need to do that.
If not OBG, which clinical subject or in which other subject would you have done post graduation?
I think psychiatry, because I did enjoy in Martha's post natal counseling with all those women to make sure that they fed their babies well, that they were comfortable, that their sutures were healing nicely, and that they didn't go into postnatal depression. Maybe I would have done psychiatry.
All right. If you were to be Chief Minister of Karnataka for a day, like the Nayak movie of Anil Kapoor, if you were to be the Chief Minister of Karnataka for a day, what are the three changes that you would bring about?
I'm very passionate about removing anemia from children. So that's something that I would do to give them nutritious food that will prevent them from getting anemia. Um, to desperately put down that every person needs to do their bit in the garbage management by segregating, and if they segregate, then we can manage the garbage perfectly. And thirdly, I would totally instruct all the women in the state to use the menstrual cup, which will reduce the garbage, save their money, and give them comfortable periods.
All right. With that, we will actually end with a comment by Dr. Umar Raja, who says that your energy and passion is admirable, and truly to all the Johnites who are watching this, particularly the youngsters and the current Johnite students, you are indeed an example for what a doctor can do beyond life in the hospital, beyond serving patients and trying to bring about a change in society. And we will also give the last word to Praveen Sparrow, because he says that Robert Anthony was Tyson in our batch. Had we known about your wrestling prowess, we would have put both of you during in the ring. No prizes for guessing who would win. So with that, I would like to call upon Dr. Robert Anthony, if he's still there with us, to sort of conclude this wonderful session we have had, and to address Johnites around the world who would have tuned in and who would also watch this in the YouTube link. Dr. Anthony Robert, if you're there. All
So
right.
thank you, Uma, for the lovely comments.
I think we are having a little bit of technical issue with Dr. Robert joining. Dr. Meenakshi, we will leave the last word to you, a message to Johnite undergraduates who are studying right now.
I think you will, I mean, like all of us did, we didn't study as much as we should have. Study, and as you go up in the ladder of the MBBS and then post graduation, you will understand why every subject is important, and make wonderful friends among your classmates. They will stand by you forever, especially, your um, dissection classmates, the dissection table classmates. They make such wonderful friends. Uma is one of them for us. And please, all girls, use the menstrual cup and have happy periods. Don't struggle like we all struggled with those horrible pads. All the
All right.
best.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meenakshi Bharath, again for joining. And on behalf of the St. John's Medical College Alumni Association, it's been a privilege again to restart the Johnite Tales. And we will be back with many, many more episodes in the coming weeks and months. We are able to have Dr. Anthony Robert join us. Finally, the president has joined us. Before I leave, I again would like to express a very, very special thanks to George BK. He's a final year student, and despite prelims, he has always been the technical support for bringing out the Johnite Tales, and Prithvi, who is virtually the backbone of the Alumni Association. Dr. Robert, all over to you. I don't know if you caught it, but Dr. Praveen Rodrigues was talking of a match, wrestling match between you and Dr. Meenakshi, given the Tyson nickname and her having portrayed the role of wrestling. The last word over to you. All right, we seem to have lost him again. George, if you could call Dr. Robert and we could get him on board. Very, very sort of a warm invite to all the Johnites, particularly those in a very warm invite to all the Johnites, particularly those in Bangalore. The St. John's Medical College Alumni Association Christmas dinner is happening on Saturday in the top floor of the auditorium. So please do register and please do get in touch with Prithvi or any of the office bearers and RSVP to us so that we know the numbers. Dr. Robert?
Yes, please. Thank you, Dr. Meenakshi, for a lovely fireside chat, so to say. Thank you, Nitin, for curating that. I'd encourage all Johnites who tuned in, who've seen this wonderful episode, to send us messages on our social media or on our email, all of which are listed on our app.
Thank you to all the people who facilitated this.
Right. Thank you so much. Please do keep your comments coming in. Please do let us know if you would like us to feature anyone. We are happy to take your suggestions. It's been wonderful interacting with you, Dr. Meenakshi, and we hope to see all of you Bangaloreans turning up in large numbers for the Christmas dinner of the St. John's Medical College Alumni Association. Till then, till the next episode of the Johnite Tales, take care and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.